Morning, welcome to IPC APEX 2018 from San Diego, California. We've got a packed show for you this week with lots of new technologies on the floor, some of it for the first time, covering some of these new areas such as smart factory, artificial intelligence, additive printing, cobots and more. My first guest today is actually John Mitchell, President and CEO of IPC. I spoke to him yesterday and I put these questions to him, how IPC is adapting to these new technologies.
The electronics industry moves at a breakneck pace and it's always changing. So some of the latest things that we've been doing, we have 7 standards out in the printed electronics space. We have an e-textiles conference happening in September. So we're looking to respond in the areas that our membership in the industry is working, and where we'll start with a technical conference which leads to standards, and then it becomes cyclical around that path.
Right. So when you say e-textiles, that you're talking about not just wearables, you're talking about all
correct, yeah,
materials.
Aerospace, automotive, it's any place you've got fabrics, so it could be your seats, it could be all different kinds of things, yes.
All different types of things, that's incredible. Moving on to a wider thing here in the US, I mean, the Trump administration recently has brought in a lot of business-friendly types of
legislation or changes.
Ranging from taxation, etc. Are you starting to see more jobs opening up in the electronics industry?
I think we're seeing the optimism to do that. So with the tax breaks, you see a lot of companies having a little bit more fiscal opportunity to open some new jobs or to restructure things, maybe bringing some things back. There are incentives for people to bring funding at least back so you can build infrastructure. Obviously infrastructure takes a little time, so since it's still a little early for us to see a lot of results from that, but there's optimism about it for sure.
Okay. Merging that with the topic we started with on the smart factory and the technologies coming through, do we have the skill sets to meet that need?
No, that's a great question. I mean, we have, our industry has had job openings forever. We still have positions, even before the Trump administration came around, that we're unable to fill. And so one of the things IPC has been doing, we surveyed our members and asked, what keeps you up at night? And the number 2 across the board answer was workforce. How do we get the people we need? We did another survey, I'll be talking about this in my keynote on Wednesday, about how many both operational jobs as well as engineering jobs are really challenging for them to fill. So IPC we're working in the workforce development arena. We're trying to develop education programs. We have a job task analysis committee made up of members' HR groups. We're always open to more individuals sitting in the human resources space to help us craft the education programs that will help reach out to those who are not in the industry and make them capable of working in the industry. Because really, there's a lot of individuals who are, if I hired somebody and you wanted to hire that same type of person, we end up stealing them back and forth, rising the salary, and neither of us are happy. Instead, we're looking to try to find people from outside the industry that are interested in getting in, but maybe can't spend the 8 years of college to get that right degree. But there are shorter term programs we've done some prototyping with other organizations that have been very successful. Now we're looking to automate that and bring it to people online.
Yeah, because surely fundamentally it really has to start at the high school level where people are, and college level where people are doing science and engineering degrees.
We're looking at high school interactions from high school, actually even down to middle schools, school, high school, tech programs, colleges, as well as people looking to do career changes. So we're looking at all of that and trying to find out ways that we can really excite the industry, the world about these type of opportunities. There's a lot of misconceptions. I mean, people still feel like if you don't go to college, you failed somehow. And yet there are some very wonderful jobs and can put good money on your table, very respectable, and when they think of manufacturing, they tend to think of more of a dirty type of place as opposed now it's a high technology kind of place. So we're looking to do some education around that space, as well as maybe even get some of these high school kids some certifications so they during the summer might get some summer jobs, working in the factories and seeing for themselves.
It's a great idea, it really is. Okay, moving on to your standards programs. I mean, I've been a critic in the past of standards programs taking too long to get into operation. But you seem to have picked up the pace on that because the industry's moving faster, technology's moving faster, so you have to move faster with it.
Yeah, so when I first got here, I guess it was about a year and a half into my term here at IPC, we had a number of our members come to us and say, look, we're the electronics industry. We move fast. You know, a cell phone that's a year and a half old is ancient. Yeah. And if a standard's coming out every 5 or 6 years, that's not helping so much. And so we worked with our technical advisory executive committee and formulated some techniques to try to accelerate that process. And last year we launched I think it was 8 standards, but 4 of our major standards in this new process, and they did it in 3 years, as opposed to the 5-year typical turnaround time. Yeah. And in some cases, it's actually taking them less time because they're utilizing these new tools. So we're very excited, very motivated to match that kind of pace for the industry, because that's what the industry wants. My job is to deliver what's going to help the industry. When the industry says we need standards faster, we've got to figure out a way to do that without killing our members at the same time. And so that's why we came up with these tools with the TAEC to help find ways to accelerate the process without burning out the process.
You've also become more international in the process too, so you're involving people from a wider number of countries.
Yeah, so we're actually in, I want to say, around 100 different countries, depending on how you look at it, whether it's certifications, I think it's over 100. If it's committee members, it's around 100. Our 2 most widely sold standards are IPC 610 and the 001. I believe there were 18 countries involved in one and 17 countries involved in the other. Wow. So they are global standards, and we encourage that because it's a global industry.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to see that all coming together and happening at a faster rate, because I think that's absolutely what's needed. John, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Smart factory solutions for any mix, any volume. Total integrated solutions, allowing you to focus on your business while we manage your production challenges.
Delivering innovation for over 34 years and backed by employees worldwide, Nordson Syntec's team of experts are ready to support your next adventure.
And welcome back. CFX has come a long way in the last year. The standard has progressed at a record pace, and it's making its debut here on the show floor. Here to talk about it is David Bergman, the VP of Standards and Training. I want to talk a bit about this CFX standard, which you've been developing at record-breaking speed. I believe we're on the cusp of some big announcements here at APEX. Tell us what visitors to APEX can expect this week.
Well, I understand that this is unprecedented and it has never been done before. We've managed to take the show floor of APEX and make it a factory floor. Okay. And using the CFX standard that 22 companies or exhibitors that are participating in the show, they're going to be sharing data with the attendees, the audience. The audience will be able to monitor their equipment by the use of their cell phones. So using the CFX standard language, a equipment manufacturer will stop his machine, check for faults, finish product. That data will live feed to the cloud and then down to the exhibitor or to the attendee's cell phone, and they'll be able to monitor how many products or simulated products, because we're really not making assemblies on here, but you'll be able to see the progress of each one of the 22 companies that are participating.
So to be clear, visitors maybe have to log on to a special IP address?
There's a website, so we can do this globally. So if somebody wants to do it from their laptop in the UK, they go connectedfactoryexchange.com. They can see it and monitor it there. When they come into the show entrance, there's QR codes. They'll let them pop it into their phone, so they can see that and then monitor it by the individual exhibitor. Or when they go into a specific exhibitor that is a CFX supporter, they can scan a QR code and they'll get data specifically for that supplier's equipment. And some of them have just one machine, some of them have several machines that are inputting and outputting CFX data.
Yeah, so it's an example of how the system can work.
Just scratching the surface, because CFX standard is still a standard being worked on. I mean, our goal is to have that published this year. We've been working on this for some time, but the major decisions have been made. And that's what allows us to, when you talk about acceleration, honestly, within the last 6 weeks, there's been a major acceleration, because all the foundation was there, and now we can make some decisions. And the goal on this, because just talking about software and data transfer standards can be kind of dry. And so the objective was to take that and make it exciting to the audience. I mean, they look in there and says, hey, that looks like a factory floor data. I really am interested in that. How can my company either push our fabricators to get in there, or at least learn some more about that?
Yeah. No, it's a very timely demonstration, because I mean, I read this morning on I think it was a Twitter feed that there's 65% of companies are actively looking at systems or methodologies for implementing smart factory solutions.
Well, Industry 4.0 is like the buzz of every show around the world, and at some point, people want to get to the point where they can start to build the amazing things and have all that. There's some private work being done by individual companies, but industry's really looking, I want my 4.0, but still I may want a mix of different suppliers' equipment. Or maybe I have one break down and I want to buy another one, put it in, and have it up and running quickly. So, having a standard where that's then universally used can allow them to focus on the higher level things, which is really what the goal of 4.0 is. But having a sound foundation and have interchangeability.
Yeah. But it's also true that a lot of people have legacy equipment that they will want to try and extract some information. Looking closer at CFX and the wider role of CFX in the factory, do you see it playing a wider role beyond the production line?
So from a standpoint of, certainly production is its primary role, but the fact of facilitating data collection at the enterprise level. I don't know that there was some discussion at the committee meeting. Is it, can this go beyond electronics assembly into some other type of manufacturing industry? It's not completely clear. There is a toolkit that was developed by the committee members that's available as a shareware, where that toolkit, which is intended to lower the barrier of entry to get into doing that, that's out there in place. But from the format itself is intended to be both machine to machine, machine to enterprise.
Yeah, where I think I was coming from on this was really on supply of materials to the line.
Oh yeah,
because that's a big part of what's happening.
So it's fully expected that the CFX standard will allow the machines to call for the next round of components. I see that as telling it, hey, I'm running out of circuit boards, or this job is coming to a close. Start the next job preparing. Fully expect that CFX will support that.
Right, okay. So we talked a little bit earlier off camera about the position of CFX at the moment. That there are some other softwares systems out there that do the lowercase function, like Hermes. There's the CFX, then you've got all your individual systems for the larger companies out there, Panasonic, Yamaha, ASM, etc. There's a little bit of a limitation, though, at the PCB end. Can you talk a little bit further about that?
Yeah, there is no doubt that the companies that that originally came to APEX a couple years ago when we started to talk this. We're very heavily focused in electronics assembly. During this time, I've continued to personally reach out to my colleagues at the Taiwan Printed Circuits Association, to the Japan Printed Circuits Association, to our colleagues in China, to say, hey, this is coming. You know, and the message that I've got is that they're very, either their customers are pushing at this point to look at the GEM-SEX or SEX-GEM standard for that industry. I couldn't find somebody in that group, at least in the discussion of people that I interact with. I said, okay, is there somebody I can debate on that? Because I would just want to at least give you some details as far as what's happening. The message that I got was that this was kind of customer driven at the time, and that some of this was we're going with the flow time being. Since I didn't have a completed standard, I had a vision. Now I'm several months now that I do have a preliminary 188 some page document at this point. I can now show them that says, hey, here's the power of this. Maybe you want to look at it again. But you know, they have a path that they'd like to go on. My objective at this point is to shout out that says, hey, look at what we're able to achieve here. Look at the companies that with minimal effort have already shown that they can accomplish this. Right. Take a look at it. Maybe it's not so difficult for you to take a look at this.
Okay. And my final question, David, is obviously security is high on everybody's mind at the moment. It's been flagged up as the key issue for 2018 in all factories around the world is security. Some people are talking about using blockchain systems, etc., to create a digital entrance to the factory. What is the IPC view on this?
Certainly, from the standpoint of the committee decision on choice of format, security was very high on the list. In fact, out of the options that we chose, or the options that were evaluated, I think there were 5 or 6 that were thoroughly evaluated by the committee. They selected the one that they felt provided the highest level of security, which was the AMQP format that's used by the banking industry. Yeah. I have no doubt that there's always ways to add additional security in. We haven't had further discussions to the level that you're talking about locking down. It did come, security again came up, so you are spot on this, because it comes up at each meeting, what about security? At APEX, we're using a cloud server. The information's going from the shore floor to the cloud, the back, so everybody, oh, it's in the cloud, what about? Yeah. Well, the companies that are manufacturing don't have to have their data go to the cloud. They can go to a private server. It can be completely offline. They can run this system internally and have the data shared just internally. I'm sure that discussions will continue on security. If there's if things that can be done to support the standard that adds more security, I'm sure that the committees will evaluate it.
Yeah, I think the key concern is that inside the factory walls, everything's being encouraged to share and go open source and everything else. So there needs to be some form of real protection to stop bad actors getting into that. But David, it's an ongoing discussion, and one that we're both heavily invested in. I want to thank you for joining us today.
Well, keep your eye on the factory floor, and we'll see how it goes.
And thank you, David. You'll hear more about CFX and these technologies in our Smart Factory debate tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. That's on Wednesday. Coming up after the break, Tanya Martin from SMTA.
Saki's newly developed unique inspection technology assures measurement performance and data reliability in M2M connection. Saki's AOI and quality-driven production are major components to the success of the Smart Factory.
And welcome back. My next guest is Tanya Martin. She is the Executive Director of SMTA. Nice to see you, Tanya.
Nice to see you.
Okay. Just come back from a busy week, of course, in Hawaii. With the PanPac conference. But what I want to do is maybe start with a question I asked John Mitchell yesterday. This industry is exploding with new technologies at the moment. We've got smart factory, we've got additive printing, we've got AI, digital twin, cobots, all sorts of different things happening at once. How is SMTA adapting to handle these new technologies and deliver these messages to the members?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is an exciting time in our industry. There are lots of new technologies that are developing and maturing, and we're taking that opportunity to organize new programs that are addressing those topics. That we are also.
I think you've also got some an emerging technologies session.
Exactly,
which I'm involved in too, at SMTA.
Yep. And so we're taking some of those technologies that are coming out. We are developing new tracks at some of the existing conferences to address them and to bring in industry experts that are contributing to the advancements of. Right.
Now, fairly recently, you merged, or Smart Group Europe merged with SMTA to become SMTA Europe. Is that the first step in a bid to try and open up new chapters in Europe?
That will be our end game, obviously. But really, it's just an opportunity for us to further our mission into an area of the world that we haven't had very much of a presence in the past. So it's exciting to be able to bring new programs into into the different regions around Europe. Be working more with the guys out of the UK, and in the end, as we start to grow and spread the mission and get more people involved and grow our awareness, that we would love to see that the increased participation spin off into additional chapters within the different regions throughout the continent.
Right. So you have one conference, I think, in Amsterdam. Is that on reliability, or what's the topic?
That one is electronics and harsh environments. So that type of platform gives us more opportunity to address different topics, to bring in the mil-aero, to bring in more automotive, as well as just general higher temperature areas.
Okay. Coming back to this side of the pond, as they call it, we've got something that we're doing together on May 24th up in the Valley. eSmart Factory 2018.
Yes.
This is going to be a great program of leading edge experts and papers on the different softwares and approaches to the eSmart Factory. We'll also have workshops in additive printing and cobots and robotics. What do you think delegates will learn from this?
Well, it's a great opportunity for us. We're excited to be partnering with Global SMT on this event. It is a new area for us to be working in as well. So, for delegates coming in, they're learning from their peers. We've got some great presentations and speakers coming in that really to have the opportunity to come in, learn from their peers, and find out where the direction that's going and how it can be beneficial at a user perspective.
To their factories. That's great. So absolutely excited, looking forward to that. So we're just at the start of APEX. It's going to be a busy week, so I want to thank you for coming in and joining us today, Tanya.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And no doubt we'll see you in the very near future.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Right, so that wraps it up for day one here at APEX. I want to thank you all for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow morning at the same time.